Yeah, so it's always a real pleasure for EPRA to be associated with the Iberian property event here in Madrid, in particular this year, because as we all know, 2022 was a very complicated year for the listed real estate sector, but also for the private real estate sector. Our sector is currently trading at significant discount to NAV, whilst the operational performance of our companies is perfectly well. So there is a clear disconnect between share prices on the one side and the operational performance.
The main idea is we are seeing a world in which we're going to be living higher interest rates. And people say higher interest rates is very bad news for real estate. And what we say is, yes, but you need to distinguish markets which have overheated the last years, and those markets are going to suffer from higher interest rates. There are markets where house prices didn't go up that much, such as Spain, and those markets will not be suffering. So what we will be illustrating how to analyze the difference between hot and less hot markets.
The investors are sitting on tons of liquidity, which they are willing to deploy as soon as possible. There's a slight wait and see, but we believe after discussing it with investors that the market will turn around very quickly. So our suggestion is you rather invest now than waiting and being again in a seller's market as we have been in the last 5 years.
It's really a pleasure for me to be here today and I will be speaking briefly about the European taxonomy, which is one of the central pieces of legislation, part of the sustainable finance, which objective is to guide the capital towards more sustainable investments.
I think that the general opinion of all the people here in the conference is that there is no fear about a very catastrophic situation next year. So it's more optimism in the long term and being cautious in the short term, because there's still things that need to be solved. But clearly all people here are very happy and satisfied about the results in 2022. Operational results in all asset classes have been very good, and that's something to be optimistic. Clearly there are still some clouds around 2023 that we need to work with. One probably is valuations and how these interest rates in the short term.
We were expecting a very tough 23 by late November, December, right? But I believe that after Christmas and with the start of the year, we have a much more positive atmosphere. We are seeing deals coming to the table, increasing pipeline, and I think that this is because we see that the macro has stabilized a little bit. More important also is that Iberia is still different from the rest of Europe. I think that our perspective is much more better. We have a really impact of the decrease of energy cost. Winter has not been so tough as expected in terms of climate. And then we have some fundamentals that attract investors.
Well, today we had a very interesting discussion about where the real estate market is today. We've gone through a very challenging 2022. And I think that we saw quite a lot of confidence in the outlook for 2023 and beyond. And maybe a distinction between a very short term that will be more tactical in an adaptive mood, as opposed to a more mid to long term that I think that there's a lot of trust in the capacity of this sector to deliver returns. That's on the quantitative side. Then on the qualitative side, also the impression that real estate is leading best practices in ESG, which is something that the society requires.
Merlin remains focused on its main business lines, which is offices, logistics, and shopping centers. We will remain investors in those lines in organic growth. We will continue investing in our own assets in order to generate extra rents. These days, in terms of valuation, the sector which is more challenged by the market is offices. However, the underlying demand remains solid and robust. I mean, we continue having leads and people moving into our offices, and occupancy has reached in 2022 historic highs. So the underlying market is in good shape. It's only valuations which are challenged by investors today. Logistics valuations are also challenged, but only because they went too high. But again, the underlying market is super robust. I mean, the demand is out there, and we continue developing from scratch based on our existing land bank.
The importance of the current EU taxonomy in relation to real estate transactions, and particularly with compliance departments in companies that have activities in this area, is I think, it's obviously going to be growing a lot, in the sense that at the moment, at the moment it's essentially a disclosure requirement, in the sense that, should we say, the idea is to push market participants towards better ESG compliance.
Really interesting to be here at the Iberian REIT conference in Madrid. A lot of focus on the markets, on valuations, but overall very positive, certainly in terms of the macroeconomic picture, both for Spain but also for real estate markets, given that the depth of the recession is not expected to be as hard felt, and that we'll likely see interest rates